Okay, kiddos, we are back for another episode of the Savage Brewski Show. I got my buddies with me. Hello.
We have buddies.
We're
Yes.
battle buddies.
Aw.
We're buddies in perpetual battle.
B is for besties that roll together.
Think I'm gonna move to Argentina. No, Venezuela.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. Jeez.
Oh man, where is it? I can't. Maybe it's Uruguay that the RPG pundit lives there. Sure, you can move there and play historical war games with him.
Alrighty. Well, obviously we're in fine spirits, and today, I'm just going to be honest. This one, we're just going to be winging it a little bit. We're talking characters, and that's not really a limitation. We are talking characters that you pick up outside in TV or games or books or other stories that you incorporate into your RPGs, your tabletop games, characters in those games, lines from characters in those games, advertisements from characters that end up in those games. We're not really going to put a limiter on a good thing here, people.
Darn, I thought we were talking about Patrick having no character.
Nah,
What? I have tons of character when no one's looking.
his CHA is through the roof.
I got them Steven Tyler PJs. Polly Shore. What game? What's his stats like?
Oh, man.
God. Holly Shore? What game can I just kill
Specifically, Crawl from Son-in-Law.
Yeah, I was going to say we got to narrow the target there. Well, his charisma is going to be through the roof. The dexterity is going to be at the bottom.
So we're choosing a D20 game. We gonna throw him in D20 Modern, or are we gonna throw him into Faerun? Forgotten Realms? Like, who cares, right?
No, he'd
I don't
ruin
know.
Forgotten Realms.
I don't have the brain cells to differentiate right now, so I'm just being
Dragonlance.
I'm just being as basic as possible. All right.
I think I would put him in probably in the oh, I'm having a brain fart. What's those? Monsters? It's Monster something. I can't think of the
Monster
name.
Hunter? What is it? Are you thinking of Larry Correa's Monster Hunter International? Is that what it is?
No. Here They Be Monsters, maybe.
Nah, you got me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just dove deep into this. I mean, I would for Pauly Shore. I mean, I think it'd be cool just to see him in like a D20 Modern, kind of like Bright, and you could even just do him straight out of Encino Man too. You don't maybe not even Crawl from Son-in-Law, but do Encino Man, wheezing the juice.
Oh my gosh.
And he's running around with a barbarian.
Check out the Major Dubedge. This dude doesn't like you at all. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, first off, the model would be magnificent just from the freaking hair alone. But Pauly Shore, this is the fifth or sixth time we've mentioned you in various podcasts. Obviously, we'd love to have you as a guest, but I don't know your agent, so
I'm pretty sure Pauly Shore is dead. I saw the movie.
He is
No.
not dead.
no, Pauly Shore is not dead.
That
I've
was
seen him
the
in.
joke. That was. Did you guys ever see that movie? Pauly Shore is dead.
No, I didn't.
No,
I didn't even heard of it.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of what is that called? Like a Lampoon interview thing.
Monster of the Week. That's the name of the game. Monsters of the Week.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of reminiscent of
It's a role-playing game, except for it has absolutely no dice rolling. It's all storytelling. And it takes place in modern times.
I feel like that's definitely another conversation for another day.
Special rule triggered.
Right? How do you play a game when you just do all the storytelling and no rolling of the dice? Like that's just sitting around a campfire and playing past the story.
The entire
really
game.
Fun. I've played a few of them.
Really?
Yeah, I actually did one with Justin in El Paso, and I forget his name. He was a park ranger. He was the one that ran it. And I want to say it was kind of like Fate, and I didn't and Tyler played it with us, and there might have been one other person, and and it's all story driven, and so we basically made the campaign up by us telling the story, and so we basically made and it was a post-apocalyptic world, and we made the campaign basically be the story of the movie, the book with Denzel Washington, right?
Book of Eli. Yeah.
Yeah, Book of
the
Eli,
Book of Eli.
where we were like basically trying to protect this book, but the book turned out to be a Playboy a Playboy issue.
Dude, that's hilarious.
And we were trying to save the centerfold. We had to save the centerfold. It was hilarious.
Who was the centerfold?
I don't remember.
Oh, that's lame.
I don't remember if we even named it. I mean, it's been years. This was years ago.
You're
Okay, so
standing in
you
the middle
say
of a
Polly-
forest. You're standing in the middle of a forest path. A large brown creature comes out and asks about picnic baskets. What do you do?
Okay, so you said Polly Shore exists in this Monster of the Week game setting. What are the stats? Maybe this is how I can learn about the game. What are the character stats in the story driven game?
I don't remember.
You stink so bad, dude.
I didn't
Like,
run the
how-
game. My buddy Pete ran the game. He was the dungeon master, the game master for it, and I was a player.
All right, you guys vamp
I was
for
a
second.
leader
I'm
of the
gonna look it
Monster
up.
Hunters.
I'm gonna look it up. What would you say it was called? Monster of the Week.
Monsters of the Week.
Monsters of the Week RPG.
Yeah, I have a whole campaign up on
Oh,
my portal
that's the
about it.
reason why. Because it's Evil Hat Productions. Ugh. Same people that made Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
I don't know anything about that.
We talked about it a little bit because
Well,
it was one of
maybe
those books
I
that I
just
really
don't.
wanted to pick up, but then I saw a little bit about it and I decided against it. I said, "You want?" They said specifically this book wasn't for me. I respected their opinion and I let it go.
Well, I don't know anything about that Thirsty Lesbians book, but this game, Monster of the Week, is super fun.
Oh, that sounds good. The thing about the Thirsty Sword Lesbians was it looked really cool. I wanted to use it as a driver for this world that I had, where it was kind of like not necessarily feudal Japan, but it was going to be kind of like that, like serfs and kingdoms and such, and like the world was going to be ruled over by drag queens that reflected the 7 deadly sins. So each kingdom was its own. But and then, like you said, and then I looked into it, looked it up, and was like, yeah, nah, it's not for me. I'll do something else. I'll do my own thing. Probably like, let's see, that was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I looked at that book. Could have been sooner than that.
I didn't even know it'd been out that long.
It's been out for a little while. I remember the last time I looked at it, I was running through Missoula, so it had to have been one of the times that I was either going to. I don't think I looked at it that long ago. It was when I got out of the Army. I went to the college, or when I got out of active duty, and I went to the lineman college. I made like the time that I missed going to lineman college. I made it up by doing the wellness camp. And I was like a dishwasher / cook for 3 or 4 weeks doing that.
Oh yeah.
And on my way back, I saw it. And instead of picking up the book, because I was like, oh yeah, I'll do some research on it. Maybe I'll order it online, or next time I come back through, I'll pick it up. I ended up getting some paints instead. But anyway,
paints that you don't use anymore.
No, contrast paints were out by then. I'm pretty sure I would have bought some contrast paints. No, I remember what it was. I bought the metallic P3 paints, the ones that I'm still using. Was it brass balls?
Oh yeah, all right.
Quicksilver.
I used to love the metallic paints by Privateer Press.
Yeah,
I just like Metallica.
Oh, I don't. I much prefer Motley Crue.
All right.
Okay, so we have Polly Shore. We wanted to put him in Monster of the Week, but we don't know what the stats are.
Gosh, do I need to? I have the book. Just a second.
Okay. Well, Bruce,
Come on, not that big a deal. Not that
what
big.
game you were saying you'd put
Jeremy,
it?
put the rule book down. God damn it!
Put
It's
it down.
down.
No,
It's down.
we
Let's
don't have
move
time
on.
for this.
Screw Polly Shore. We're moving to the next character.
No, I'm not screwing Pauly Shore. Just next character.
Yeah, man. He talks about if those walls could talk. You know what I'm saying?
God damn.
Anyway, okay. Polly Shore wasn't even like anywhere on my list of things that I thought we were gonna go to today either.
Well, you started it, didn't you? That was all you.
No. I think I might have. We're gonna listen to the playback, and then we're gonna find out that it was me. I was the drama.
The court stenographer will read the minutes.
Exactly.
Brewski did the impersonation, and then you placed him in a game.
I still blame Jeremy.
Yeah,
He is the war god.
As you would.
That's like your domain.
As you would. All right. Moving on. Digressing like a mo. All right.
Real character, Pat. Who's your first choice from a video game?
Oh man, so you guys know that I don't play a lot of video games.
Okay.
But I did get Kitty Tears of the Kingdom for Mother's Day. And I was able to keep off of not playing it for like 2 weeks. And then I took my year 2 journeyman test, my year 2 apprenticeship test, and I aced it. And I was like, I'm going to reward myself playing a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom. Oh my gosh. If she's not playing it, like if she's not actively working on the game, I'm playing it. So
yeah, I know you're impossible to get a hold of anymore.
And it's not even because of that. I am also really bad at putting my phone down. But so Link is on my brain. I kind of cautiously move into this territory because I know everyone's probably like, oh yeah, well, we want to create Link in Dungeons and Dragons. And first off, no, because there's so many better games out there, like Iron Kingdom's 2D6. So I think you
Link
have
wouldn't
to
work in that.
What? Why
Link
not?
doesn't, because it's too steampunk for Link.
Well, this new Tears of the Kingdom game, you can build mechs in it. It's like huge.
You can build mechs in Dungeons and Dragons.
The big old foresty Gundam.
They're called Warforged.
Not the same. Anyway,
it's better. They're magically created instead of steampunk.
Well, okay, so I was thinking IKRPG or in War Hordes. I think you would use the Iosian as a base, but he would still be Hylian. But he would be accepted within the Iosian culture. The question is would he view like the Menites and Signarin and other human witch and like magic casting peoples as threats, or would he see the Iosians as like the people who okay, so I should also proceed this because I know that a couple of people that listen probably are like super into the War Machine lore. Mark III, so before Oblivion, because after Dusk. Oblivion, I was gonna say after Oblivion, when they all become weird vampires, man, poor Link would go there and be like, oh, I gotta save the elves, and then the elves would probably not be about that. But I don't really know what's going on with the vampire elves.
Short version,
Mark IV.
They're not all vampire elves either, just some of them.
Yeah, short version. There are still somewhere in the world. There's a few elves around, but not very many. Like some of the old Retribution are sitting there. They just don't have a country really, and that's not many of them. But there's still a few. The majority of the elves are now soulless, or they're mostly dead. Yeah. Anyway, it's funny because the diplomacy, the nation itself, I forget what the hell it calls itself, but the Empire of Eternal Dusk essentially is more diplomatic towards humans now and wants to fit into the world rather than, being the evil big brother. But anyway,
because they have to eat the human soul.
Oh, yep.
Oh, I see what's going on.
Hi, we need freezer pops. Let's be buddies.
But if I was gonna stat Link as a solo that you could put into a War Machine army, I'd probably put him as like a 6-point mercenary solo with like what was that, like the friendly faction rule for Retribution? Partisan. Yeah, I'd probably give him Partisan Retribution, and maybe even Partisan Signar. But that's kind of beside the point. You'd have to give him Weapon Master because I mean he's the
No,
yeah,
Weapon
because he's the
Master?
renowned swordsman. That would make sense if he's got the Master Sword. Either that, or you'd have to give him what's I can't not it's not animosity because animosity prevents him from working with somebody. Like he might have animosity fucking animosity like Legion or Crix, right? But what's the one where I don't think there is like a favorite enemy special rule.
Not in War Machine,
No,
no.
not
Not
War
War
Machine.
Machine.
Nope.
Yeah, so then yeah, like I said, I'd give him Weapon Master. He would have a +1 buckler for the Hylian shield. The Weapon Master, give him Mat 7. I think like Mat 8 would be too bad because you got to represent bad player skill when you're behind the controller. And then yeah, if you wanted to go with Tears of the Kingdom, I would give him man, maybe Tears of the Kingdom might be too hard to stat because he's just kind of all over the place. But if you were to go maybe like the Super Nintendo or the Nintendo 64 games, if you just give him the Master Sword, the Hylian shield, and then bow and arrow, grapple shot. I feel like that would probably be the most you'd want to slap on his card before it starts getting too greedy. But I would think melee attack 7, ranged attack 6. So he'd almost be kind of statted like what is her name? Iris. If you guys are familiar with you guys being the listeners, not you two. I know you guys are fairly familiar.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're kidding out a counterpart or a similar character to Iris at some point because she's good at shooty, she's good at melee, she ends up with some badass weaponry later on. Like, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I basically feel like you just wish list her as Link.
Yeah, so I would have her as a basic stat line, get rid of all of her special rules, and then give it like I would give it like a special rule of Vanquisher of the Dark, so that way it was like any undead, he would get a boost dice, so he would be like an absolute beast against like forces of the dark.
Why
4 dice
why
attack.
undead? Where does he fight undead in any of the games? I'm not 100%. Like I only played the first 2 Nintendo games, right? From back in the regular NES, and then I never played anything else until Breath.
Did I just lose you guys?
No.
Oh, did we lose Jeremy?
No. I don't think so.
You guys there?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
We can hear you. You dropped off right at the
Can anybody hear me?
Can you hear us? Oh no, we've fallen apart.
No, we haven't.
It's because he couldn't possibly. I see where he's coming from though, because I'm thinking of like Redead. I'm thinking of in this newest game you have the Gibdos. I mean, not a huge fighter of the undead, but you want to give something to the Master Sword insofar as in the lore how it's good at vanquishing foes of darkness. Probably make him 5 boxes. I would give him maybe armor 14, defense 14. Unless that seems too high because of the shield. No, he'd be armor 12 and then +1 or 2 for the shield, depending. No, did we still lose Jeremy?
I'm here.
Did you hear me?
I turned all my volume off for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Somehow.
And then, yeah, so what I was saying was the only reason why I would do something for the Master Sword is to fit the lore of the Master Sword a little bit better. So he would need to have something where there was something to the effect of vanquishing foes of darkness for the Master Sword.
I
So
don't,
he would
I
be
don't think,
situationally
I don't think
4
you need that at
dice.
all.
No?
No, because you've already given him Weapon Master.
Yeah, but I mean,
One or
there's
the
okay.
other.
Okay, so then I would then did you hear me with the buckler for +1 shield?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I would give him, so then you'd have to decide, do you give him the different elemental arrows, or do you give him an arrow shot, the grapple shot, and then like an ability with the ocarina?
I
Or
don't know what the hell an ocarina is.
it's like a flute.
Ocarina of
So
Time,
yes.
so he would play a
So,
song and it would do things with time.
Never
so
played it.
maybe
Don't know
yeah,
anything about it.
I was gonna say maybe once per game he has 3 different abilities, so he's got like 3 different mini feats.
So he's basically Haley 3.
Negative. I think we don't want to stat him too high. I'm thinking more of
You just gave him ability to do what Haley 3 does.
no, I didn't.
Yeah.
I
She
was
has a
thinking
past,
more of
present, future
the
version, basically.
I was thinking more of the Piper of Ord.
Well, the Piper of Ord's pipe just gives his allies bonuses when he
Yeah.
plays his pipe.
Well, yeah, either that or kind of like Gristle 2. So like the Ocarina, when he played it in Ocarina of Time versus or in the Majora's Mask, you could play different songs, you could port to different places. You could play like the Song of Healing, which if you played it near certain NPCs, they would react favorably to you. And then there's always my favorite is the Song of Storms when he walks into the windmill in Kakariko Village and plays the Song of Storms, and he like freaks out the guy in the windmill. He's like, "This fucking kid came in here and played this song, and it went like this." So if you're doing the Ocarina of Time version, I would give him the sword and shield, a bow, and then I would give him like 3 mini feats where it's once per game, give a friendly unit +2 movement for the 1 turn. Once per game, give a unit within a range tough until the end of the round. And once per game, you could place Link anywhere within a foot, maybe
12 inches, damn.
Yeah, well, because in the game he ports all the way across Hyrule. Now, granted, that's also in a when you sing the song, you port to a specific place, so maybe that's not very indicative of the rule, but that's the way that I would stat Link.
I just think you wouldn't see that in a battle game. It's that's Foloku's wing, which instantly transports your Farseer up to 48 inches away. It's like, okay.
I feel like you just made the most broken character in War Machine ever. So this is why you don't develop War Machine rules.
Well, this is the reason why Link doesn't exist within War Machine.
This is why we're having a hypothetical podcast talk as friends and not throwing each other under the damn Hyrule bus, Jeremy.
I want to
also
put
why
Master
we can't
Chief.
have nice things.
I want to put Dr. Manhattan in War Machine.
Special rule, nuke. Yeah. Wonder what that is.
The blue dong of death.
Did not need that image.
Yeah, we'll try going to the theaters to see that movie with your mom.
Oh,
Hi,
man.
Mom.
Hey, Mimi.
Hi, Mimi.
All right, Jer. What you got?
All right, so if I was to stat a character from a video game,
What you have?
I would probably have to do, and this will count for my movie too, to be honest, because it's basically the same character. I would have to stat up Snake, Plissken, or Solid Snake.
Sensing a snake theme.
So, because Solid Snake is obviously based off of Snake Plissken from Escape from LA or Escape from New York. And I would put him in the Dead Zone universe as a mercenary. But I'm not gonna give him every rule under the book like Patrick did.
I did not give Link every rule in the book. I didn't give him parry. I didn't give him anyway.
So I think, let me look at my Dead Zone book real quick. It's been a. I should know all these rules for some reason. I'm
I mean,
not.
I'd give him.
I'm spacing stuff.
I think I'd give him shoot 5, fight 4, because I think he does a lot more close combat than he does shooting in the movie, right? Plus, he's got one eye, so that depth perception is terrible.
So it depends on what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, Escape from New York was more shooty. Escape from LA was more run and fight.
I mean, he did a lot more shooting actually in Escape from LA than he did Escape from New York.
Yeah,
it was the other way
thinking
around.
Escape from
No,
New York.
Escape from New York, he only has his gun for just a tad bit of time, and then he has to have that big fight with the guy with the baseball bat, and then after that, he basically doesn't have a gun anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you know, if you're going off of Escape from LA, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you got to give him some hoop shooting ability.
What? No. What the hell is up with you and making rules that don't even matter? So
I'm trying to have fun with it.
yeah, well, I would rather actually have the guy in my game.
Oh,
So he'd obviously be a merc, but I'd have him a merc that could work for anybody except for the Marauders.
even
The reason,
the Astarians?
sure, why not?
I could see him working well with the GCPS. Like I could definitely see the GCPS.
But there has to be a rule. I would have to have him have a rule that he can never be used. They can never use a splat on him. So the reason why you can never use their splat is because they've obviously coerced him into working by giving him some type of disease.
Okay.
Why can't I find my? This is ticking me off.
Because reasons.
My Dead Zone 3rd edition book is not in my files. I'll just open the 2nd edition book. Not too much changed. So pass it up. So you'd probably have a speed of 1-2, just like almost every regular normal human. Speed 1-2. You'd probably give him a shoot of 5+. That's the base human shoot 5+. Have him have a fight of 5+ as well, and a save of 6+. He'd have no armor. He'd be size 1. 2 wounds. He'd be armed. He could be armed with any weapon that you want it. You just have to pay the cost of the weapon from the weapon list for whatever faction you're pulling him from.
Okay.
Campaign, he'd have weapon option any, and then campaign ability options none. You know, because he's a mercy, he can never get any bonuses that way, right?
Okay.
He would be 22 points and worth 3 victory points. Give him a.
Did you say 22 points?
Yeah, 22 points.
What do points look like in 3rd edition?
It's been a while since I don't even know.
Is it the same though? Is it like
they're
100, 150?
Yeah. Your game point sizes are still 150 and 200.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'm tracking.
Yeah. He'd be in 3 victory points, and then he'd have a recon of 4+, and a tactician of 1.
What would you give him for a splat?
He doesn't get a splat. I just want that. He not only will he not have a splat, he can't use any of the factions he worked for to splat because of his. That'd be a special rule that he can't use anybody's splat because he's been coerced to work for them.
What about giving him some sort of like special rule where before the first turn of the game he gets an extra move to kind of like resemble them dropping him in?
So you could give him agile and scout. So, or probably just scout. Scout will let you give you that extra move before the game starts. Agile lets you move up and down a level for free.
Okay. I know that Brewski's probably over there like, I've never fucking played Dead Zone. What are these guys talking about?
I'm keeping up with most of it. I mean, it's very similar. It's got a lot of mechanics similar with 40K and Kill Team. So
Yeah.
I gotta send you like a Dead Zone care package, Brewski. That game is so good.
Hmm.
If you like Infinity, there's no reason why you wouldn't love Dead Zone. And that might be one that you can get your fiance to play too.
Dead,
I'm gonna give it the college try with Code One, but yeah.
Dead
Yeah.
Zone is probably the easiest game to teach anybody. I actually have a game going on here tomorrow of Dead Zone where we're gonna film it for the channel.
Baller.
So
Oh, sweet.
I'm actually
so jealous.
as we talk, I'm actually painting some rebs that the armor wasn't 100% finished on.
I should be painting right now, but I'm not. I'm just totally assume. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, it's a good thing you got on because I was about to go to bed.
I'm super gracious that you guys are troopers.
Yes.
So that's my video game, and then Slashy counts as my uh movie or movie character as well because I can't think of anybody else besides Conan. Well, I guess I can do Conan later.
Yeah, we could do a couple. I mean, this
So
could be
for the
really
movie,
fun. Mm-hmm.
all right, Brewski, you're up.
Let's take some thought, but I would love to see a Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII, probably in War Machine, possibly in the IKRPG, but I don't know that as well rule wise.
It's mostly the same. Like all the stats are mostly the same. You still have like a mat and a rat. You still have your defense, armor, speed, and all that jazz. The only thing that's really different is you do have like a breakdown in skills and attributes, and your skills and your attributes kind of work together to come up with your mat and your rat. And then you'd have like careers. So the careers are like you can choose warcaster or warlock and such.
Okay.
So the careers don't really matter, and I remember them decently enough that if you come up with a character, I could probably give them a stat for their poise and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably just gonna keep it to War Machine then, just because I can speak in that frame of reference. But obviously, the guy has, three major attributes in that he transforms into a demon as his limit break, which is variously great or whatever. Number one, number two, he's a gunfighter, and number three, he's got some degree of like teleport. So realistically, he would probably have something like reload, and I'm thinking Kalissa from the Ret. I think Striker at one point had that. You could basically just pay focus to reload and get an extra shot on the gun up to 3 in a single turn.
Yeah, that's what was towards the end of third edition. They were allowing you to do that instead of giving your gun rate of fires.
Yep, exactly. So it'd be that. And I'm not going into the specialty about the gun because he just uses guns, and even throughout the game, it's kind of like unless you're playing Dirge or Cerberus, you're not really getting any difference. It's just a gun, Teleport, I would give him like reposition 3, just because I think that works well enough, and that was on things like Gareth, and he had like acrobatics and different points like that, and that kind of represents Vincent, floating around and showing up mysteriously a bit. I think that'd be workable.
I don't know anything about this guy because I've never obviously played the game, but does he have magic in his shots?
I mean,
does his shots have a magical ability?
Not particularly. I mean,
so he's not really a gun mage then.
He's not a gun mage, he's just a gunman.
Okay.
He's arguably everybody in Final Fantasy VII has materia and magic, so
so less Kane and more Cal Burlock, right?
Kind of
Monster Hunter.
Kind of, yeah. Not really what he does, but yeah, similar. I figure if you had that, and you'd probably have something like he'd be more shooty, but he can do melee. Like he's got a badass little claw arm, so he definitely could do some melee to hold his own, but he's more of a gunman. So probably Rat 6, Matt probably 4, maybe 5 if you really want to be a badass. And he'd probably be a solo that can ally with almost anyone. He's not really racist or stuck to one group or whatever the hell. He probably just wouldn't be in I could see him allying with Crix, but probably not Legion. You
Oh,
know,
Does anybody ally with Legion?
definitely not the Infernals.
you don't ally with Legion. You get knocked up and sacrifice your children to Legion.
In
So,
Dirge of Cerberus, isn't he like specifically fighting like weird materia demons?
um, as I remember, it was mostly.
So I vaguely remember it being like Devil May Cry, and I
I
was just
haven't
like, eh.
I haven't played it in ages, but it's from what I remember, it's like a Shinra remnant. So it's mostly soldiers and machines and mercenaries. That there were guys like that in Crisis Core, but that was pre, or if you think about it, post Vincent, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I think the biggest thing for him would be the mobility, because he's not going to be this huge assassin character that you just, okay, Iris is on the board, you're going to die. Like, you wouldn't overpower him that way. But
You got to nuke her up the board before it's too late.
yeah, I managed to kill Iris and she didn't kill my guy. I consider that a moral victory. All right, moving on. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd have him. He'd be like your supporting. I could almost see him being like a journeyman caster, if you put it that way in the game. And he'd maybe have a jack or something that he can control or whatever, but mainly he would just be your supporting gunfighter. Put him in, take out a couple solos or take out something like that. He would fit really well probably in red if he were actually an elf. But
Yeah, I was thinking of Gareth. Gareth one light.
even just the mage hunters, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Scary Gary.
Hey,
he
look
is.
at two people made a reasonable character to put in the game, and one person just made some Mary Sue.
I think your mic cut off when I said that he costs 6 or 7 points, and that he has Weapon Master and 3 mini feats. I don't understand what you're saying that he's overpowered.
Yeah, don't make me play God, Jeremy.
Zap.
I do very good at that character. Okay, so we've covered video games.
Yeah, video games and the movies. Okay, let's see here. So I did put the feelers out for the Twitter machine,
Yeah, I saw that.
Nerd Cognito likes to ask. And so the very first one I got was from at Liberty for All 19, old school war gamer, verified on Twitter. But he would say Pitfall Harry in his own D20 modern adventure. So I would give him probably like little strength, but a lot of dexterity, considering all of the use rope, acrobatics, balance checks that he makes. Tumble. So he's probably, I mean, considering that he dies pretty easy, he's probably somewhere between like a level 1 and a level 3 character. Probably running strength 8, dexterity 16. I mean, if you wanted to be
he dies when you get touched a snake. I think he's level 0.
He's an adventurer. He's going to the grinder. Well, I mean, he's gotta be a thief, right? Maybe an acrobat, depending on which. He said specifically D20 modern.
You're playing D20 modern. You can actually just make him an adventurer.
Yeah, you can just make him an adventurer.
Yeah, the Indiana Jones class.
So, and then like I think statting out the monsters would be kind of interesting, only because how do you give it that Pitfall Harry feel without it being so so reliant on like the character's rolls to not die being touched just one time, because he's probably running around with either D4 D6 hit points. I mean, very agile. He cannot be wearing armor. His green shirt and his green pants. You know what I mean?
And he has a hat.
True.
His magical ability is swing.
Super swing. So yeah, you and then maybe he's got some really high lore and history checks. So that way he's good at identifying treasure or reading maps to find them. And then give him a bunch of ranks in let's see, knowledge, nature, knowledge, occult. Like, what kind of artifacts do you think? Does it say what culture the artifacts that he's looking for are?
I think he's like a lore. He's like the proto Laura Craft. He goes anywhere in the world,
Yeah, but
right?
it doesn't. Does it say that he's specifically looking for like Aztec stuff versus? I mean, he's in a jungle, so it would have to be. It would have to be somewhere like that. Oh, here it is. Pitfall, the Mayan adventure. So yeah, he's gonna have like knowledge Mayan. He's gonna have knowledge nature. And then
Oh, he's looking for the lost city of El Dorado.
oh hey, look at that. And I'm looking right here that says in the game, let's see. Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle was released for the PlayStation. The game features Bruce Campbell as the voice of Pitfall Harry Jr. I didn't know that. Bruce Campbell. Love that guy. hail,
Yeah,
hail to the
smart.
king. Yeah, exactly.
Stop S smart.
I didn't know there was that many Pitfall games.
I didn't realize there was that many either, but with Bruce Campbell in there, I mean, you got to give him high charisma. Off the charts, almost higher than his dexterity is that he needs to swing across the rope. I think we're because D20 Modern was still feet heavy, right? Because it just used the OGL D20 system.
Yeah, it's just D&D 3.5 with modern skin.
Yeah. Okay. So of course, human, and I'm gonna stick by like maybe high intelligence, low wisdom, only because he very willingly went into these jungles with no adventure party to back him up. So yeah, low strength, high dex, low intelligence, mid-tier wisdom, or I'm sorry, mid-tier, maybe upper tier intelligence, no wisdom, high charisma, probably has a decent reflex save, no fortitude save whatsoever. And then I think if you're gonna be dealing with old artifacts, if I don't know if they say that there's anything that's magic in some of the more recent Pitfall games, but the older ones, I don't think that there was anything about magic in those. But it would be kind of cool to have like a Pitfall Harry where he has like a high will save, so he can actually handle, or it would be really cool maybe to have like a H.P. Lovecraft Pitfall Harry. He's like looking at a Cthulhu idol and he's like trying to fight off the insanity. So give him a decent enough will save to stand a chance against old items. Plus, I mean, dude fights off against giant snakes. So
You mean he just fights off against snakes? They're not giant. They're just normal size South American and Central American snakes.
I mean, hey,
what about the giant scorpions in the
Okay.
in the pits?
All right. I guess those are giant.
Okay.
everything looks like an anaconda when you're surrounded by little gardener snakes.
Is this a dick joke?
God, Patrick. Gotta make everything X-rated.
X-rated. That's an Offspring song. So yeah, that, like I said, that one came from Old School War Gamer at Liberty for All 19 on Twitter. That one was pretty fun.
Do we have
Jeremy, you got a
others
second one?
from Twitter?
No, just from you.
No.
I put the call out for people, so I went ahead and read one of those while I was thinking of my next one, because I can get relatively obscure, and the last thing that I want to do is
For
get
video
to
games? No, I don't play enough video games to have a second video game character that I want to put in a miniature game.
Trying to think of a video game that I know you played, but you played the Star Wars games.
Which already have characters in a miniature game that I play.
Okay, well, what if you took one of the Star Wars guys that you play and you put him into something like Warcaster or Infinity or Dead Zone again. Dead Zone's a really easy one to stat out because
I've already done that though, because we put him in the campaign. We remember I had Boba Fett.
well, yeah, but you could share that here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I could take.
That's so. This is one of the things that I thought you would be like super excited about because
Well,
there was this
I
one time that
stat lots. I'll stat out a lot of characters from movies, but not from video games because I don't do video games.
yeah. Well,
That's
it's
video
all the
games are not
same.
my forte.
You don't have to do the video games. You could do your
Well,
books or movies throughout the episode.
I thought we were right now talking about what video game characters, and then we'd move on to the next section.
Oh no, I wouldn't
right.
put that restriction on you. I would
So-
just say your best ones, and we'll go for as long as we can.
So I probably would. My next favorite character that I would love to have in some miniature games, probably specifically in like a Frostgate type or a Mordheim type game, would be Conan. Right?
Oh, and there's a lot of really good miniatures for Conan. You can
Yeah, I mean,
buy, print, download.
I have 12 different versions of Conan from the Conan board game alone, I think. So they have quite a few different sculpts for him in that. And I've painted up 4 of them so far. But so for Mordheim, he uses the normal stats of Warhammer Fantasy, basically. So you have a movement, and I give him, he's a normal human, so he'd be movement 5. It'd be a weapon skill 6, though. So when higher your weapon skill is, oh wait, am I doing this backward? It'd be weapon skill 2. My bad. So the lower your weapon skill is, the easier it is to hit your opponent.
Right.
So if I have a lower weapon skill than you, I get a bonus. There's actually a chart: weapon skill 2 versus weapon skill 3.
And rolls of 1 are always a miss, right?
Yeah, rolls of 1 are always a miss, but weapon skill 2. I don't know. I think I'm still doing this wrong. It's been so long since I played Mordheim.
No worries.
He wanted to have a very good ballistic skill. Conan has never been known for his shooting abilities.
The only thing Conan throws are punches.
He'd probably be toughness 5. A normal human is toughness 3. He might be toughness 4. So toughness 3 or 4. Toughness 3 is a base human, so he'd be the bare minimum. He'd be toughness 4. Toughness 5 might be pushing it. So I'd probably stat him out pretty close to a Marauder of Chaos. So yeah, movement 5, weapon skill, probably actually 8. Ballistic skill, all right, probably a 6 on his blitz skill. Strength of 5, toughness of 4. I'd probably give him 4 wounds, maybe 5. An initiative of 8. He'd have 5 attacks and a leadership of 9.
5 attacks. What's the average attacks for a character in Mordheim?
3 to 4.
Oh, okay. So he's definitely like a melee missile.
Yeah. And then, then you have to pay for their weapons though. So he'd probably only be able to start to get maybe a hammer for 3 gold pieces, maybe an axe at 5. You ain't getting a sword. That's 10.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people recognize that a sword, like in ye olden times, would be this about the same as buying a car.
Yeah, so that's probably Conan for Mordheim. Yeah, Mordheim. If I was to, I'd have to play Mordheim a lot more, but if I was to stat out Conan for one specific game right now, Mordheim. All right, I think we're back to you, Brewski.
Brewski, the last episode you were talking about the gunslinger from Dark Tower. What game would you put him in?
Arguably, I mean, if you were playing that kind of D&D, he could be in there. But the only thing in game rules though is all you have is his shooting.
I feel
You
like I feel like he's basically a gun mage.
No.
So I'm not totally familiar with the character. Does he shoot magic bullets, or is he just really good with his gun?
No, all gunslingers are just really good with their gun. And that's about all you really have. He can just, he in the first book, spoiler alert.
I
He
mean, the
basically
book's like almost 20 years
20
old.
years. Yeah.
Yes, but some people haven't read it, and I'd rather have that
Fair.
one guy all
Hell,
triggered,
they-
like you ruined it, and
How dare you?
They even have
It's
a
me.
freaking movie now.
I'm not even dragging the movie into it. That was bullshit. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't know that they had a movie.
Don't watch the movie,
Yeah, it's called The Dark Tower. Pat, it's not worth it.
which you
Who's
don't
in
want to
it?
watch.
Idris Elba plays the gunslinger, and Matthew McConaughey plays the Man in Black.
I don't know. Well, the only thing I know about is the gunslinger because of what Brewski talked about the other episode.
It's really not a good representation of it. Just no.
It bombed
Okay.
too, anyways.
Well, okay. So what game would you put him in? Are you talking about like 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition?
I'd probably throw him in 5th. I couldn't see him fitting in 3.5, honestly. The
Just
only
too hard to track all the rules.
Well, also very little guns were in 3.5.
Exactly.
Unless you were playing
Unless
a
you did
specific
modern.
Oh, unless you were playing a specific setting that had guns, like the 3.5 version of Iron Kingdoms.
like the Vox Machina thing. Like obviously there's guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Percy has a pepper box. So anyway. Yeah, like I would not do something where like, oh, he doesn't actually have guns. He just has like little mini crossbows that fire 6 things each. Like, no, fuck that. Like, no. That unfortunately that's about all he would have. That I wouldn't make Roland into a character just because he would be so one trick pony there. He would just be ridiculously accurate, very, very good with his guns. He would literally kill stuff in one almost damn near guaranteed to hit shot. That's how he would spring traps and do everything else as well. I'm sure if Stephen King were listening to the podcast, he'd be like, well, he can do so much and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, he can. But game setting wise, it's going to translate to lore of the world, which if it happens to be, mid world that you're playing in, great. He'll do fine. He'll have a horn, depending on which part of whatever you're which part of the story you're telling him in, and even then it doesn't do anything until the very end. He's actually at a dark tower, so it's kind of like useless. But that's really it, other than making him pretty survivable, pretty tough, multiple wounds. He has no armor to speak of. He carries no other real equipment. Like, I would really have to delve to get into things. Like he has a skill. If he's sitting down with someone, he can hypnotize them and he can kind of get them to, remember things that are hidden or forget things or whatever. Like he can do that. But it's like, okay, middle of a fight, is that going to be handy? I don't think so. Middle of a story, maybe.
Well, I mean, for your role playing stuff. So it sounds like he would be like a really bad dungeon delver type. But as far as like a DPS thrower with some situational out of combat type of
sure.
Utility.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
he'd
be a good support character for a group of adventurers.
Oh, hell yeah. Sounds like it.
Like it wouldn't be the weirdest thing if you randomly were in the dungeon, you stumble on him and like, hi, what are you doing in my world? Like, because that's literally the type of thing that would happen and literally is what happened in the story. He's running into people from what seems like our version of Earth, and he's in it's sometimes what seems like a futuristic version, but things are different. So.
Okay. Let's pick midway through his story. What level of adventurer do you think he would be? From 1 to 20.
If you ran into him, you would probably find something like, again, progression wise, it's kind of like, I don't want to overpower him, but realistically, he by the time the other characters meet him, like the end of the gunslinger, you basically have a time skip and he ages. He wakes up like Rip Van Winkle style. and he's aged and he's slightly arthritic and blah blah blah. The first thing he does is he ends up on a beach and he literally has these lobster things chop off like 3 fingers, so he can only shoot one-handed anymore. I don't know. I kind of want to put him like an 8 realistically, just so he doesn't overpower and he's not coming as this, ungodly powerful character, but that would be the kind of thing. But yeah.
Okay, let's see here. What's another character that I would do? What game would I put him in? I feel like Doomslayer was too much of an easy reach, because I think somebody else that we're very familiar with in this same kind of space, the same kind of genre, has done it with Doomslayer in the 40K universe. But it's still fun to talk about.
Who's Doomslayer?
Doom.
He's called Doom Guy.
Doom guy. What about, okay, what if you did, dang it, come on, Paddy, think.
Man, this is your subject. You can't even have it. You didn't even have two
And
people yourself.
I thought I had some good ones, and then I got really stuck on a lot of stupid stuff.
Well, we can skip you and come back if you want, because I already know my next one.
Yeah, if you got a next one, do it.
All right. Well, my next one will be John Wick and Infinity.
Is this because of that miniature that you showed off in that chat earlier?
I mean, I saw the miniature earlier and I was like, yeah, that would work really cool. So he'd probably have a move of 4-4, which is the basic normal human move. He's not in the movies, he didn't show any additional like skill of being a fast extraordinarily fast.
I'd probably make him slower because of his age. Plus that last one where I didn't see the last one, but the one before last where he fell off all those balconies.
This is Prime Guy. We're not doing almost dead John Wick after 3 days of being chased through the city kind of thing.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. He'd probably a CC close combat. I'd probably give him a close combat of 16. That sound high? That sound high, Brewski? I know you're just getting into Infinity, so you might not know stats very well.
No, I think for the character you're talking, that'd work.
And even though he's pretty good at shooting, he usually only uses pistols, so I'd probably drop his blitz skill to maybe a 14.
To be fair, yeah. I mean, it's gun fu, so
yeah. Then physical would be 10, whip would be maybe 13, armor 1, BTS is be 0, wounds 2, silhouette 2. Let me think if there's anything else. Obviously, I'd give him a combat rifle, a pistol, and a knife for his equipment. I might give him mono mnemonica. I believe it's how you spell it, which is where he can't be targeted until you pass a whip. I might be misremembering the rules. It's been over a year since I played Infinity. But it sounds right. It's a rule that the Shazvate have. Basically, you can't target them until you've identified that they're not human, that they're aliens. So basically, you have to identify he's the guy you're trying to kill before you get a shoot at him.
in other words, like high mimetism or something.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, the rule might be something with mimetism in it. I might be totally mispronouncing it. It's very, very much like that. And I don't actually have a digital version of that rule book or anything to open to check all these rules. I'm just going off from memory.
Yeah, no, they are free though. The rules are free. So.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out.
I mean, they're hefty reads, but they have some really cool stuff in them.
They're laid out.
AROs work like
so.
Would he have a lot of AROs?
No, that's not how AROs work.
How that works? No, okay.
AROs everybody has.
Everybody gets an ARO, and what happens is, as I have orders, and I give my guy an order, and he gets 2 actions. One, he can take either 2 short actions or 1 long action. After he takes his short action, before I get to move him again, you get to see if anybody is looking or can see him, like visually. Like, is he in my line of sight, in my arc of fire? If he is, I can take an ARO. There's a couple different arrows, but the 2 ones that either you're gonna shoot back at the person or you're gonna dodge away to make sure he can't shoot at you. So you never get more than 1 ARO.
Okay.
Unless there's some changes to the rules since I played last.
Not that I recall. And some of them are a little bit different. Like
But there is a lot more arrows in those, but those are the 2 basic ones that everybody will use a lot.
yeah, it's mostly shooting and dodging. Sometimes the guys that are more computer centric will try to like if they're in a suit or some type of mech armor, they'll try to reboot, or a hacker will try to hack something,
Yeah, there's hacking, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of how ARs work in the game.
And thinking with John Wick though, like you could have multiple versions of him. Like obviously you could have John Wick 1. Okay, pistols, you could have just pistols. You could have pistol and a combat rifle. You could have a boarding shotgun. Like you can kit him out differently depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
You just you have to give him a pencil though.
I know Jeremy's probably not super familiar, but Brewski, did you play that Cyberpunk game?
The video game?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know about it, but I've never played it.
I have not played it.
Oh, okay. Dang it. Because I was like, who would win? Johnny Silverhand or John Wick?
Well, I'm gonna go John Wick.
Johnny Silverhand wouldn't lose a finger.
I would suppose, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't play the game. I know he's got just the one cybernetic arm, but seeing as he's not the main character, I would imagine he's probably the relayer of a bunch of fetch quests. So I would imagine John Wick. So maybe it was a terrible question. Anyway, the next one,
I'd be interested in playing that game eventually once I get a computer that can play it, maybe, or if it's a console game, I have to buy a new console, but it's not high on my list.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna miss that boat because I have a Switch and a Mac, and it's not available on either of those platforms. So, the other Twitter reply I got was Mist. Are you guys familiar with Mist?
I am.
Nope.
So not necessarily a character, and this one comes from Luna Umbra 3, who's been a friend of the parlor for a little while. And so she said Mist, and I asked her if it was the character or the place where the puzzles are. And she said, oh yeah, definitely the realm of puzzles. So not totally a character unless you're like into the Dungeons of Mimic thing. But one of the things that I was saying was it would be super cool to make to like run a session where you have physical puzzles that you hand out to your players, and it wouldn't be like super the logistics of having players solve a puzzle in real time might not be good for the game, but if you were able to give them like a really cool like puzzle cube, or even one of those one of the local bars down the street from me, they line the bar top with a bunch of those kinetic like fidget puzzles, the ones I'm talking about, where it's like,
oh yeah, I know exactly
a couple of U-bolts with some nuts, but like the nuts on one is like shaved on one or two sides, so you have to like loosen and tighten them just enough so that way the U-bolts slip off of each other.
Yep.
So not necessarily that you spend the entire focus of that, but you give them like a small puzzle box, or you give them something that they can do while they role play and do other stuff around town, where when they solve the puzzle, they're like, oh my God, we solved it. And then there's a key in there. And then they like present the key to the DM, and they're like, and then you unlock the dungeon. So just as a side topic, I've always thought that would be super cool. And I'd like to do tutorials on how to make physical puzzles like that. Maybe you'll see some of that in the future. Lots of foam core in your future if you're into that. But as far as Mist as a setting, with a lot of livable characteristics in it,
because it's been a long time since I played the game, and if I recall correctly, I think there was 4, maybe 5 in the series. If you guys are familiar.
I don't even know what this game is.
I know there was Mist, and then I think there was Riven. I don't
It's called
remember if there was anything else other than that.
MYST.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it was a first-person point and click puzzle game.
MYST.
And I remember being enthralled with it. And when I got it, it was on that. It wasn't on a platform called Steam. It was something else. I can vaguely remember the logo, but it was like green.
Oh, you're
drippy
talking
jars.
about. I know what you're talking about. The old way you used to have to play online against people.
Mm,
Why is it? I can't think of the name off the top of my head either.
no, it was a different platform, but it was similar to good old games and Steam. But I don't think it.
I'm telling you, it's the way you had to play against online people before.
Is
but
it
it
the
went
same
away.
server that Neverwinter Nights used to run through.
Yep.
I know what you're talking about, but I still don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Because there was 2 that I remember being like that. But that's not the point. I remember getting that, and I remember having that one and Psychonauts on the same server. And I was playing Myst, and so again, kind of a slightly different
Game
topic.
came out in 1993.
Yeah, slightly different topic than what we're currently talking about, because it's
Well,
a setting more than it is.
I feel like
a
this
character.
setting has to be a D&D setting. I'm sorry, I know you hate Wizards, but
I don't hate
looking at
D&D. I like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at 3.5 just fine, and still just as much as I did yesterday.
well, just looking at their wiki page, it looks very much like one of the realms that you could go to through any of the planes of the Dungeon and Dragon universe.
But the specific thing would be there wouldn't be any combat. So you'd have to find a way where you can make convincing puzzles for your players to use without any combat, really. Maybe there might be some PvP when
There
the players.
There are plenty of Dungeons and Dragon games out there that run with no combat.
Oh, for sure.
There's literally groups that play, like when they do their little session 0, they'll tell you that, like, oh, I can't have anybody die. That's a trigger to me. I've watched them on YouTube, and I'm like, how are you gonna play Dungeons and Dragons and
What's
tell
the
me that your
point?
trigger is people dying, or there can't be any racial
Racial bonuses?
no
Racial biases.
Yeah, you can't have dwarves that hate elves in this, because that's a trigger to me. I'm like,
The dwarves are running around calling everyone knife ears. Ah!
Gotta love it.
But I mean, okay, so kind of as a side comment, when you guys are running games or when you're playing games and you come up to a puzzle in a role-playing game, so like if the DM offers you a riddle, do you proceed off of like a character's intelligence check or maybe some sort of knowledge skill check, or is it as fun to get caught into the figuring out of the riddle or the puzzle as an actual player than it is to have your character solve it by ways of like rolling the dice and adding a modifier?
I much prefer to have the players actually try to figure it out on their own than try to roll it out with dice, because I think when you're rolling dice, it really takes away from the feeling of being inside of the game, and you're just there to roll dice. If I wanted to roll dice, I'd play a miniature game. That's kind of why I like to prefer the Edge Studios or the previously Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars World. I can't think of the name of the new. They've renamed it, but it was the same system that they made their Star Wars, the most recent Star Wars RPG with.
Was that a D6 system?
Nope, it is their own specific dice.
Oh.
But it really benefits the players themselves. There is dice rolling involved, obviously, but a lot of it also boils down to the player's imagination. So let's say if I tell you, I shoot back at the enemy. All right, I just give you the base dice stat, the base dice that you would get from that. Let's say I told you, all right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to cover behind this table, and then I'm going to use this table for cover while I lay down suppressing fire for my friends to be able to aim and shoot better. Then because of what you did, I make your friends get more dice. So
Okay,
it's
that's
like a
actually
reward section. And when you set up the game, you make sure you tell your players that, because if you don't, they're not gonna know, and then they're gonna play it like they play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's just gonna be boring. And
okay. So
I had a ginormous group in El Paso playing this game too. It got
It's
so
one of-
big. It got so big I had to have 3 DMs running 3 different crews on 3 different ships.
wow. So yeah, that would be missed. I think there would be a lot more inter-character role play. And in the missed game, there was, I can't remember if there was 1 or 2 NPCs. So maybe Luna Umbra, if you're listening, you can let us know in the comment section. But I do remember there being a couple of puzzles where you brought up some scrolls and there would be a live action video of a dude talking, and you had to listen to what he say because it would give you either clues, solves for another puzzle, and I think there would be something in there insofar as having the characters being able to role play amongst themselves, and you might even be able to do like pre-generated characters where for one shot reason the players will just play as somebody that exists within the world for that night. And maybe there's like a couple of stipulations where if one character says, something alluding to this particular event or something, then that character will shut down and say no to these type of solutions. And then you kind of have to like solve your way through that together just to make the puzzles a little bit more interesting. And then if you ever got like totally stumped on a puzzle, you would have to have some sort of like like an intelligence type of check, or like a dungeoneering, knowledge history on like the plane of mist, I guess, the plane of puzzles, so that way the DM can drop hints to guide the players in the right direction, so that way the DM wouldn't have to just wave the puzzle away with the roll, kind of like what Jeremy was saying. But hints that can come from like, and that's kind of what's cool about pre-gen characters is they can make like a, I don't know, like a memory type of roll chance thing for the DM to give a little bit of exposition that could forward the puzzles.
Yeah, you need some kind of prompt, some kind of push to get through the game that way.
Mm-hmm. Because I like puzzles. I especially like when my combats are kind of puzzles. And I've subjected Jeremy to a couple of those recently where it was like there was this dude that kept on spawning mirror images that were like terrible combatants, but it was kind of like a numbers elimination game.
I don't remember that, but okay.
It was the dude in the alley from with the fight to nil, I think is what I called it.
All right. I mean, I think I remember it. I just, my brain is racked after a week of calling people all day, every day. I will tell you, I'll talk about it later, not do it on the podcast. I'm ready for my next one if you guys are ready to move on.
Shoot.
Always ready.
So my next one is Kratos from God of War.
Ooh, what game?
I think I'm gonna place him in Warcry instead of Age of Sigmar. I thought Age of Sigmar first, but then I think he'd fit better into Warcry, because you can just have him in Warcry all by himself.
Okay, so before we move on, are there single player or single model Warcry warbands?
There is not.
Ooh,
But
okay. So
Kratos-
how?
But Kratos
Okay.
will be.
Tell me more about Kratos being a man, I know that there was a term for it, and it's not Slambo, it's not. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so this is the way I figure he'll be statted out. He won't be at full 1,000 points. It's unbelievable. So, but the mode you'd play him in would be limited to 500 points, and he'd be 250 points. So he's basically half of the points, and he'll always be outnumbered. That's the way I kind of see this. He's obviously a follower of Korn. So he'd have the Korn ability, which I'm not sure how that works in 3rd edition, because they have updated, and I haven't played any of 3rd edition, but in the previous edition they had yeah, obviously you have your dice where you roll a 2 dice, 3 dice, 4 dice. They give you abilities. So he would get the Korn abilities from that. He would have a obviously chains attack, so his attacks are obviously get the chain ability, and they have a range of 3, but they're melee obviously as well, so they're not shooting attacks. He's rolling 6 dice, five to six dice. We'll call it 6 dice. They're going to be strength 6, and they do 3 damage on a regular and 6 damage on a crit.
I wish I was more familiar with Warcry. We played it that one time.
Yeah, it's such a easy, fun game.
Mhm.
I mean, I could stat him for Age of Sigmar too. It wouldn't be too much different.
Yeah, I would stat do Age of Sigmar real quick.
All right, so if I was gonna stat him for Age of Sigmar, he would be obviously a unit size of 1. He would still be within the Khorne faction, just because the God of War needs to be within the faction that wants skulls for the Skull Throne. Speed of 5. He'd have 8 wounds with a 4+ save, but a 5+ ward save for against mortal wounds, for him being a demigod himself.
Mm-hmm.
A bravery of 9. Not that really matters when you're a single point model or a single wound model. He'd be anywhere from 80 points to 120 points, somewhere in there, depending. He'd have 3-inch range weapons, and he would have his attacks would be star. The star would be he could attack every model that is within 3 inches of him.
Okay.
So the amount of attacks equals the amount of models that were within 3 inches of him, including friendly models.
Yeah. That almost
would-
sounds like some War Machine type stuff too, like something for Kador, right, Brewski?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Hit on 2s, wound on 2s, rend -2 with 2 damage apiece. And he'd probably just have maybe one special rule where once he dies, you roll a die on a depending on the turn. So it'd be like the opposite turn. So if on turn 1, you would need to roll a 6 for him to come back. On turn 2, you'd need a 5. Turn 3, he'd need a 4. On turn 5, a 2, right? Game ends on turn 6, so you're not going to get him back on turn 6.
That makes sense.
I mean, I think
and that's just representative of him.
He's a God of War. He can't die.
Well, yeah.
And the more blood that flows, the more power he gets, so the easier it's to bring him back.
Trying to make his way back through Hades and all that. So you come back. I get it.
You get me going, and I can come up with these pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
See, I'm a true game developer, Pat.
Oh, are we still on this right now?
I love how you're always trying to one up Paddy. It's just like, come on,
he's
man.
not letting it go.
Put your energy into something better, will you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other games. So I play a lot of games where you create your own character, and it's it's kind of like it is kind of hard when you're I want to pick a famous character, and the list goes on. Like we have you could put Sly Cooper. Do you guys remember Sly Cooper from the
I
PlayStation
do.
games?
Nope.
Raccoon Man, yeah.
Yeah, the Raccoon Man with the cool golden hook sickle weapon platformer.
Nope.
So one of the guys that I listen to that pops up on a lot of the other live shows that I listen to is the Chronicles of Iris, and he does supplements for he did supplements for 5th edition. Now he's doing a bunch of stuff, I believe, for Troll Lord Games, Castles and Crusades. And he did one where it's like a bunch of like rat folk. So I'll look that up real quick. But I'm pretty sure you could probably stat a Sly Cooper character, and I wish I was a little bit more familiar with the character. But yeah, like Chronicles of Iris is making Castles and Crusades supplements now, and he has a book called Shadows of Padfoot Alley. So I think you could set a character using those rules. Let's see, what's another like named character? Because I mean, you could say, oh yeah, I'm gonna make the Dragonborn character and the Dungeons and Dragons, because that's super fun. But Modifius already has like a Skyrim / Elder Scrolls tabletop war game, and I think they might actually have the role playing.
Yeah, they got a
rules.
role-playing game coming out soon.
So
I think it's
moving-
still now, yeah.
moving the Dragonborn over, or like the Neverarene.
I mean, but there's gonna be people that do it just because D&D is so popular, and they would know more. They probably know about the D&D franchise and the license before they ever heard of Modifius, unless they're specifically looking for a
What about what's his nuts? The big bad guy from Wild Wild West, and putting him in Malifaux.
You talking about the movie Wild Wild West with Will Smith?
Yeah, Kenneth
Yeah.
Branagh. Never in the South do we lose our sense of humor.
Exactly.
I've never
And
seen
then-
the movie.
And then putting him into Malifaux, because that's like an easy transition. So you'd put him in the steam fitters, the miners and steam fitters union, right? Because he's got the spider legs and he makes the big constructs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then let's see.
checks
Gotta
out.
He's
Gotta be
so he would
racist.
have he's got to be racist.
Got to be a racist.
Well, and
because,
he's
yeah,
in the union, so like that's a big thing too, right?
yeah.
But so
Wait, he's in the Union, like is in the
no, the
North?
MSNU. So he's in the
oh
now the MSNU. So he's like
from your
labor's union.
gotcha from the universe Malfoy. I don't know nothing about
Yeah.
Malfoy, so
And so he Arliss Lovelace, Dr. Arliss Lovelace, and putting him in Malifaux. Because every time I describe Malifaux to somebody, I'm like, imagine Wild Wild West, but cooler with a whole lot of zombies and H.P. Lovecraft stuff. So he would probably have some really cool stuff going off on tomes, which if you play Malifaux, you play with playing cards instead of dice.
I did know that.
And rams are hearts. Let's see. Rams are hearts. Masks are diamonds. Tomes are clubs.
They're
And
clubs. So what's a spade?
spades are crows.
That makes sense.
So he would have some stuff on tomes.
I almost
maybe
asked
some
if-
stuff on rams.
I almost asked if spades were ravens.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. So if somebody who plays Malifaux remembers really well, it's been a really long time. It was one of my favorite games for just a really short stint, because we had a really good group down in El Paso, and then I couldn't find anyone to play with up here until I think the Real Deal Tabletop nearby. There was a couple of people playing it, but it was after I had done a really big trade to get a bunch of Age of Sigmar stuff. and then I regretted the trade ever since.
Well, then you gave all that to me and my brother, right?
I did. I gave all of the Age of Sigmar stuff to Ray. I think there was like
Except for
one
the
or
endless
two
spells, which I
endless
have.
spells. Oh yeah, because I brought the endless spells to you. No, I brought them to your house
You brought
the
them to my
last time
house.
I
I think
went
my brother got half
for
of
Ray
them,
to take,
and I
and
got
then
like
he never took them.
no, he took half of them because I only have a couple here,
Hmm.
and I didn't even know I had them until I was in my garage cleaning it the other day.
Okay. So yeah, I would make him a arcanist, make him part of the miners and steam fitters, and then I would give him let's see, shooting. Man, what are the rules for Malifaux third edition? Because I can't remember. I played second edition.
You're asking the wrong person.
Not big on Malifaux.
Dang it.
Just don't know that much about it, to be honest.
I tried to learn it one time because Jeremiah asked me to play with him, and I was so lost.
So they have their wounds, they have a shooting stat, they have a melee stat. They have a movement stat, like a speed. Okay, so here's the third edition stuff. They have a defense, a willpower, a movement, and a size. And then all of their actions have like stats that go with that.
Okay.
Okay, and then here we go. Rams is hearts, masks is diamonds, crows are spades, tomes are clubs. So I was not wrong.
Nice.
That's good to know.
Remembered them all.
You would give him like really high movement because of his spider legs. He's pretty movable. I would give him a low defense because he is a cripple, and like towards the end of the movie, you kind of see that he's slow on the take as far as like dodging attacks. I'd make him size 2 because of the spider legs. I give him a higher willpower only because he's incredibly smart. Like I really don't think he's going to back down from some of the horrors that you would find in Malifaux. He would adapt pretty quickly.
So
and then I would, yeah, go ahead.
Is that the faction that Timbrook played?
I don't remember. I know Lantrip played the Neverborn. I know that Jeremiah played Arcanists.
Jeremiah played so many different factions. He played last time he was playing those cowboy people.
Yeah, see, I remember him being all about the Arcanists. He played a lot of Karis, which was the flying. She was the character with the metal wings and the fire imps.
I was gonna say Timbrook was playing someone that had like these little robot droid things that could like bury themselves in the ground and then pop out and explode.
Yep, that does sound like an Arcanist faction. I played Outcasts and the Resurrectionists. So I had like McMorning and such. Man, that was such a good game.
I think
that makes me miss that game.
I think James had the people that had like the alligators and the pigs.
The Gremlins. Jeremiah also played a lot of those guys too. But let's see, you give him like some really cool melee attacks because of the and Loveless almost runs around in like a really cool combat wheelchair, right? Because he's got the weird spider legs. Brewski, remember?
Yeah, he just busts those out. It's like, clearly, Mr. West, you are not a poker player. 4 of a kind always beats a pair.
Exactly. So he's got like the really cool combat wheelchair, and he'd have to have like a really sweet melee attack because of those. Maybe something that has a lot of pushback. I remember like kind of typical of big bads in action movies where they hit a character and the character gets knocked 20 feet in the air or knocks them away from whatever device they were trying to end the world with that the hero was trying to deactivate. I'd give him the positive flips on hearts, and so rams and tomes, hearts and clubs. And then I'd give him a high melee only because of his aptitude for actually like causing damage, even though it's not accurate. So maybe he would have like a spider leg attack that he can make for 1 action point, or for 2 action points, he can make 3 of them. But I make them be maybe. So in Malifaux, I think you have to flip a card of that value, and then in order for that action to happen, and then you have to flip higher than what your opponent has in order for it to hit. But again, I could be wrong because I haven't played 3rd edition. It's just the 2nd edition.
Well, I think you've played one more edition than we have.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I tried to play it one time with Jeremiah and I just got confused. And it wasn't even the card mechanic that confused me. I think it was a lot of their abilities and not knowing how all the playing cards interacted. I think Jeremiah wanted me to learn so I could be a ringer for the tournaments, because there always ended up being a short a person for the tournaments.
Dude, Malifaux was one of those games where, for the same reason that Warhammer Underworlds drew me in, where the boxes were cheap enough and the game was sold as, you buy this box and you'll have more than enough you could play with for, however many games you could want to play, really.
I did build a ton of the miniatures because everybody complained about how ridiculously tiny and itty bitty pieces were and they'd lose them, and I had never had any problem with them.
I didn't have a problem with them. I never suffered, and that was like the big meme for Malifaux was Yanlo's beard. So there was a hero character, a leader character, who was with, I think he was an Arcanist model, and he was an Arcanist / 10 Thunders, which was like kind of like the Yakuza of the game. And there was like t-shirts sold that said, I survived Yanlo's beard, because his face was one piece and then his beard was a second piece.
Yeah, and you had to be able to glue his beard into his face properly or it looked wrong.
Or it looked like crap.
It's one of the ones I had to build.
Yeah. So Malifaux is one of those ones. I think a couple episodes we were talking about like 28 heroic versus true 28 versus heroic 32 versus true 32.
Yeah.
What I do know is, like, you've run across some of these models where their wrist is as thick as their thigh. Malifaux is not that. Malifaux is like, you get some of these zombie models where their wrists are literally the width of a hairpin or a safety pin, and then their hand is proportioned to that. And it's like, they're beautiful looking models, but damn, if you're not clipping those pieces off with a lot of attention to detail, you'll clip it, it'll go flying across the room, and you got to think of something else.
I think that's where a lot of people's problems were, is that they were clipping them like that instead of the way I normally try to clip, which is a little different. It's a trade secret.
Trade secret. Is that like a whole episode in itself?
No, it's a trade secret. You don't get it ever.
But it should be.
What? You're not even gonna put it on your YouTube?
Nope.
Terrible.
No, then nobody will pay me to build their models no more. Trade secret.
That's what the Patreon's for.
But Raven Wolfgar was talking about Only Dice. It's for the Only Dice channel.
Well, we got another guy chiming in on Twitter, and oddly enough, I know this character. JP Got Rockets said,
"Oh, I love JP.
JP, do you guys know the Honor Harrington series?
I do. Honor Harrington by David Drake.
David Weber.
Or Weber, I mean, yeah, Weber.
Yep.
Oops.
So he says the honor verse of Honor Harrington by David Weber. You could even port it over to early 19th century for Horatio Hornblower. You could have both space battles and ground battles, as well as an RPG and skirmish size games. And that instantly got me cooking off on the idea of, obviously, I have a thing for fleet games. I I had the brilliant idea just based on her early stories. Like you always see characters in games like BFG and all that stuff, and they're always on the big battleships.
Mm-hmm.
This would be one, if you think about her early thing, you put her on a frigate or an escort and then suddenly watch that thing kick ass.
Yeah, she's basically John Paul Jones in space.
Yeah.
Uh,
With a cat.
yeah, well, with an alien cat.
Yeah, I know.
Really good book series, Pat. If you ever want to read or listen to, I think they have them as audios now.
I think they do, yeah.
The honor verse of Honor Harrington. Okay, so
So
that's
they already have an actual miniature game for this, by the way. It's called Power Projection, I believe, and it was put out by Ad Astra Games. I believe actually it's no longer supported, but they did for a while, and even made pewter miniatures for it. And all the ships look like space submarines. But if I was to do RPG, I would put it in the travel universe. Use the traveler rules, because Honor Ayrton's hard sci-fi and Traveler's hard sci-fi.
okay. So what would be the stats then?
Well,
I ain't gonna go through stats for Traveler. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm even trying to remember like BFG or something like that just to figure what this thing would be able to do. And I would think you would get because it's not that she brought anything to the ship. Her ship was no better. It was actually worse in several cases. But
it actually at one point she if I remember right, she leaves the union that she's working for and goes to like work for this other government that's like way less underfunded, and she gets stuck on some like shitball retired Corvette from the other company or from the other government that's been bought by this government, and then she has to
refit
fight
it.
like this. Yeah, and then she has to fight this like delaying action against the Republic of Haven.
That's the first one. That's Basilisk Station.
Yeah, and it's
but she gets this experimental ship and it's got this weird jerry-rig weapon system. It's like it's only got one big gun, otherwise it's kind of run of the mill, and it's not big enough really to defend the whole thing. So she's got to get really, really brilliant. It's the weapon system, as I remember, like if you use it one way, it like shorts out or something.
And they have boarding actions in it too, right? Am I remembering wrong?
Yeah, they had Marines. They had boarding actions. So
and so like even the Marines all have to have like the vac suited armor, so because the ships get breached and they open up to the vacuum, and then the suits actually have like magnetic boots, if I'm remembering right.
Yep.
So,
but yeah, like the oddity, like I said, instead of sticking her on your battleship, then usually that means you have like a leadership boost to the fleet, or you get an extra special order or something like that. You know, you stick her on an escort or a frigate or something like that. And usually those are pretty simple. They don't have tons of weapons. They don't have anything really special to do. But with her, it would be like, okay, your skills suddenly go up, or I don't know, maybe it's a bit faster, or maybe it has extra range to the weapons, or gets an extra order to play. Like that's, if I were doing it in a space combat game, that's what I do. If you stuck her in an RPG of some sort, I mean, again, I'm not so great with turning an officer into a character, but you would have someone ridiculously smart, extremely ruthless, good in melee combat. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a pretty good character. I used to always want it, like in my brain, wanted him and Elizabeth Moon to combine their characters of Sassenach and Honor Ayrton into like one book series. I thought that would be really cool, because that's another super hard sci-fi book series. The Planet Pirates.
What about Zardoz? What was fucking Sean Connery's name in Zardoz?
I don't remember his name in that movie, to be honest, but I just watched
Zed.
I just watched somebody's what's it? Joe Blow's What the Hell Happened to This movie on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Zardoz, would you put him in a would you put him in a D20 modern using like hard sci-fi rules? Would you put him in Traveler rules?
I'd probably put him in Gamma World.
Would you put him in? Well, I mean, it's not like he's got a bunch of mutant powers. I mean,
Well, not he doesn't, but there's definitely mutant type people in that movie.
hmm.
Not everybody in Gamma World has to have mutant powers.
Yeah, but you're not going to survive long if you don't. I mean, everyone's a mutant. Just some people are more mutated than others. I don't think that it's not like Mutant Chronicles where there are actual humans left in Gamma World.
I was pretty sure that the Golden Crusade or the Golden Circle didn't have any mutants. They had cybernetic implants instead.
Oh, okay. And then there's like the Knights of Genetic Purity. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I
But-
lost.
You know more about that game than me. You've played it. I've just seen it played.
Do you want to play it?
Not really. Not my style.
Oh, you're rough.
I'll play mutants instead.
Hell yeah. Okay, let's make Zardoz. Let's make Zed. I keep saying Zardoz. Let's make Zed. It's like fucking saying Halo. Man, I really like Halo. What a cool guy. Damn it. Or Metroid. Metroid was so cool. He's got this cannon on his arm. Bro, it's Samus and it's a girl. Anyway, so
I never
Zed.
knew that her name was Samus until like the 2000s, I think.
Oh,
I did know that it was a girl though.
but so if we were gonna make Zed as a mutants leader, I think I would have to I'd make him a marauder theme only because of like the barbarians and uh and you know they're it's just how easily everyone was tricked into like killing each other. The gun is good. But the only thing that would suck is Marauders have a really shitty shooting skill, but they have a decent vitality and a really high melee, and a lot of what like the Brutals end up doing after the initial firings is they kind of get into these scrums where they duke it out with their fists and stuff. So I would make him a Marauder. Probably have him run around with a bunch of goons. He wouldn't take any henchmen or something as lowly as dregs, because I don't think you can get away with living long as a dreg. So Zed would keep some goons around him, but nobody that could probably be near his equal. And then for mutations, I would give him, let's see, I have mutants opened up here somewhere.
Maybe some type of heightened senses.
Like preternatural reflexes, so that way he could activate before others.
That makes sense.
That would be pretty sweet. For the Marauders gang, like their shared ability between all of them, I'd give them the Sanguine Stench, so that way when they're making attacks with like after they kill somebody, they incapacitate another model and they're in their cube, they get advantage on all of their attack rolls. So the violence continues. And then for mutations, I'd give him something from the dark mutations, the Thing of Terror, only because he's running around in that in the
little red bikini thing.
the little red mankini bandolier. It's like a post-apocalyptic Borat chic. So basically anyone that wants to move into his cube, they have to make a roll to see if they can like muster the gumption to do so. And then I would give him like the itchiest trigger finger, right, to show off like him using his his revolver, and he's just like fucking fanning the trigger. And so that gives him like 3 range attacks, and then he goes out of ammo.
which would be decent because you're kind of betting on like the law of averages for his less than stellar shoot attack, and then he can, after he kind of like mows down the front line, he can go back in with his heavier and more brutal melee attack skill. And then if you're clever with it, you can take down a couple of the weaker targets of your opponents, and then scalpel out the heavier targets with the melee. And then if your opponent tries to get like smaller, weaker guys in to try to get the model advantage, so they get the advantage on melee attacks, then they have to take a chance on the thing of terror roll, so that way they might not be able to make it into melee combat with him.
Well, I guess we know who you're drawing for your supplement book now.
I gotta draw Zed. Man, yeah, he would be a good one. I gotta get back into drawing some less clothed people, I guess. That was one of the things that's funny about Chult, is they, since it's on the desert planet and a lot of people like overheat in the desert, Venger specifically says it's pretty abnormal for people to be wearing armor, because it's so hot and people just like need to air out. And I think about
that's why I never had my armor on in the game.
Yeah, and that's and I just think about the Brutals running around in their bandolier bikinis, and I'm like, man, that looks almost just as uncomfortable. Think about the sunburn. Do you know Burt Reynolds was cast to play Zed in the beginning?
Nope, I did
He
not.
turned it down.
Probably when he saw the costume.
Yeah,
I'm not wearing this shit.
I don't know why he turned it down, but that mustache, that Burt Reynolds mustache, would have been nigh irreplaceable.
You know why Sean Connery took the role?
I have no idea why Sean Connery took the role.
He wanted people to stop seeing him as James Bond.
That'll do it.
Oh, rough.
He just finished his last James Bond movie, and he wanted to get a different image. So,
well, that's a way to do it.
Yeah, he did some out of the way type stuff. Thank God when we got to the 80s, like Highlander, Sword of the Valiant. There's something else he just had a really great character in.
I liked him in The Rock with
well, that's just a James Bond movie.
Nah.
Yeah, it's so well because The Rock. And then
no.
What was the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Entrapment.
Entrapment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, kind of a spy flick, some sneaking around espionage.
I really liked him in Alan Quartermain.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yep. I thought
he could be a good one for Malifaux too.
I thought he was a really good Alan Quartermain.
The whole cast there would basically be your party, because you got everything covered.
Yeah, from Malifaux, that'd be that's a good is a fair and well aimed assessment. There we go. Fuck my words. They escape me.
I mean, there's so many movies that have like ensemble casts that literally are just like a ready to go party. I mean, obviously, Marvel Crisis Protocol has that. You literally have the Avengers, but like,
and then you have the Batman game too that has all of the Batman Rogues gallery and all of the Batman heroes.
Yep. Separate sort of thing, but you have the X-Men, same thing in MCP. But yeah, like looking at movies like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you have your whole party right there. All bases covered, all different abilities. You got a shooter, you got a melee, you have a spy.
The backstabber.
Yeah, you have the backstabber, the red shirt, whatever. Predator literally became a kill team. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
My problem with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie, was that they put, what was it, Huckleberry Finn or whatever? Who was it? Was it a Huckleberry Finn that they added?
No, they put Tom
Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
I can't remember which one it was as one of the characters. But they couldn't call him Tom Sawyer. They had to call him just Tom, right?
Tom Sawyer gets a gun.
They
I
just
have-
let on that it was Tom Sawyer because Tom Sawyer is not in the public domain.
I'd have to look at it.
Hang
'Cause I
on.
can't
It's been a long
remember.
time since I watched the movie.
Hang on.
Uh,
No, it is Tom Sawyer.
yeah, he is credited as Tom Sawyer. Shane West as Tom Sawyer.
I misremembered.
Yeah, well, because I remember that thing that being a thing too.
I remember I was watching somebody's
At
video.
the request of the studio, the character of Tom Sawyer was added to increase the film's appeal to American audiences and the youth demographic.
Mhm.
A move that the producer Don Murphy initially dismissed as a stupid studio note, but later described as brilliant. Per Los Angeles Times.
Not reputable at all.
The Los Angeles Times, July 4th, 2003. That's what they says.
Wow, that
That's
movie's
what
that
it
old.
says. Yeah, I can even. Well, and it's got to be old
Sean
too because
Connery's last movie.
because that was one of the like interviews done about the movie.
Could have came
But,
out before the movie came out. A lot of
True.
movies get articles before when controversial stuff pops up.
Oh yeah, 2003. Steampunk dieselpunk superhero film loosely based on the first volume of the comic book series of the same name by Alan Moore.
They changed a big part, one of the character points from the movie to the from the comics to the movie too, I believe, about the Invisible Man. I was watching, I think his YouTube channel is called Minty Comics. His breakdown of it, he brought it up because he's read the comics.
Yeah, so Alan Quartermain was portrayed by Richard Chamberlain, Sean Connery,
Yeah.
Cedric Hardwicke, Patrick Swayze, and Stuart Granger.
Yep, I've seen 4 of those movies. One of them is not worth watching, and the audio is terrible. You can't when the gunshots happen, they sound like pop guns.
I think I remember that.
And it was on I want to say it was on Amazon or something. So I was watching it one late night.
Who plays as Alan Quartermain in that one?
Some unknown person. I don't remember his name.
Hmm.
I'd have to look at the IMDb for it. Open it up, but I'm too busy painting to do that.
What was the one that Patrick Swayze played as?
It was right before Patrick Swayze passed away, I believe. And he played he was an older Alan Quartermain as well. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
King Solomon's Mines in 2004.
Oh, that's not right before he passed away then. I'm thinking of something different.
It was like a decade before.
Yeah.
So what about Alan Quartermain? What game would you put him in?
Probably Wild West Exodus or Dystopian Wars.
Dystopian Wars. That one's one of the
They're both owned by the same company, TT Combat. They take place in the same universe now. Before Dystopian Wars was part of Spartan Games. Wait, is that Wild West Exodus that's owned by TT Combat? Nope, that's the wrong person. Who owns Spartan Games license now? Brewski, we were talking about it the other day. Not
It's not TG Combat.
no,
It
War Cradle?
is
War
yes,
Cradle.
War Cradle Studios.
War Cradle, yep. But he fits right into that from the steampunkish from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If we're going with Alan Quartermain from the books, probably Zulu Wars because that's the time frame he's in Africa.
Yeah, that would make sense. You always have a home in Africa. Alan Quartermain. I'm gonna have to
I
check out
loved
some
Alan
more stuff
Quarter.
on Alan
I
Quartermain.
loved Alan Quartermain by Richard Chamberlain and Alan Quartermain, and then Alan Quartermain. Oh, and King Solomon's Mines, and then Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold, which I believe Alan Quartermain and the King Solomon's Mines with Richard Chamberlain from like 19. I want to say it was like 1983, 1984.
1985.
That's Sharon Stone's first movie, if I'm correct. Pretty sure.
Stone.
Yeah, it's her. That was her introduction to movies. And she plays and she's pretty young. I want to say she's probably 23, 24, maybe 25. She plays Richard Chamberlain's love interest, and he's like 53, 54.
And it would be another 7 years before she did Basic Instinct.
I grew up on that movie, so know a lot about it. I remember I keep always like there was another movie that came out at the same time, but I can never remember what the other movie is. I get parts of them confused in my memory. I used to go
Okay.
to visit Portland, Oregon with my dad, and we'd stay in hotels, and we'd watch the only time I had cable as a kid. And so like the HBO back in the 80s, you get these movies like that on them. And there was this pirate movie, and I can't remember. I to this day I've never found any information on any of the IMDb's or anything about this pirate movie. I remember bits and pieces about like the pirates swinging from one ship to the other ship, but then there's parts from Alan Quartermain and the Lost Sea of Gold that I like think is part of that movie too. So maybe I'm just thinking it's like maybe I saw other stuff and just thought it was a pirate movie because I was so young. Like I'm talking, I was young. I was 4 or 5 years old. Um, but I always think that the part where they get in the pot, uh, they're put in this pot. I don't want to ruin the story for you, Pat, if you're gonna watch the movie. But they get
Go
put in
for
this they get put in this pot to be boiled alive by these natives. And I swear that happened in that pirate movie too. And I'm like,
it.
wait, was this from the pirate movie or was it always from this movie? And I'm just confused the two in my brain for so long. Because I just recently watched that movie and I'm like,
Bruce, you got another one?
No, I'm
I
running
got
empty.
I got another one. What about Tarna from Heavy Metal? Now that's a good Gamma World one.
sure, that would be a good Gamma World one.
Okay, so if we're going off of like Gamma World 7th edition, she would be an engineered human. And then I would probably even given her engineered human and um empath because she's running around and she's pretty smart. So I'd put her at probably, it's so weird because I don't play like a lot of high level characters, but even in like the Heavy Metal story that they play for the like the actual animated flick, I don't know. I wish I was super familiar with all of the comic entries that ended up in the Heavy Metal like entries, but I'm not, because that was well enough before my time and a lot harder to access than the movie was. But the way that it all works out is an engineered human would allow you to take some of the like the melee prerequisites to make her a competent swords fighter, and then the empath, so that way she can get her mount beast, which is the pterodactyl dinosaur.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look up what the name of that is.
I
But
just thought it was kind of like a knock on the Dragon Riders of Pern. Figured it was a pseudo dragon.
but as a Chirac, I don't know if it's really a pseudo dragon, because it I mean it looks axe and flies a lot more like a pteranodon than it would like any sort of dragon would. But Terrakians, so using her empath abilities to gather information and to calm animals. And I think in 7th edition Game World, empaths even have the ability to heal, which would be reflected in her ability to kind of administer first aid after her mount takes some damage. Let's see.
They just call it the Avon Mount.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And then I'd give her abilities in athletics, in trying to think of what skills were, because I mean 7th edition Game World is basically 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And I know there was like 6 or 7 skills. And then for Gamma World 7th edition, they got in the second book, there were careers. And then in the third book, there were like secret affiliations that gave you more abilities. So for careers, I would kind of give her a merc because she's the last of Terrakians. And after like those Marauder guys kind of kill off all of the Terrakians, and she's like the last one left after killing the dude in the red trench coat. I think she would go on to kind of like sell her swordswomanship abilities. She'd be wearing I mean, I would say I know it sounds really dumb, but I would give her kind of like a light armor. So she'd probably be like AC 12 or 13 from her armor, but then I would give her dexterity 14, so she'd be effectively like a 14 armor class, maybe 15 base attack bonus.
Why a dexterity of 14? That's pretty low. Right?
No, I said 6. I would say 16 for her dexterity. So her AC with her light armor would end up being like 14 or 15.
Light armor give you +2 bonus. Your dex would give you +2 bonus, 3 bonus.
2 or 3. If you're at
So you're
16,
at
it's
+5.
3. So if you're wearing light armor for 2,
15 total AC.
yeah, 15 total AC.
She does get stabbed quite a few times, I guess.
Yeah, she does get stabbed quite a few times. So I would give her a high constitution. And I think that's probably like a Terrakian racial benefit is a higher constitution. The mutant leader faces Tarna in a duel to the death, wounding her, but Tarna manages to kill him. So I don't know if her sword would have any magical properties. When they give her like the fan service of her putting on her Terrakian armor and then giving her the sword, or she pulls the sword out, it doesn't seem like it would have any abilities, but I would imagine it would be a mastercraft weapon. So that would confirm.
I think it is probably at least a vorpal sword because it can decapitate people, no problem. And she decapitates like everybody.
And you do see that in like the weird kind of like mutant biker bar towards the middle of the story. So I would put her at level 5. She's a competent fighter who goes adventuring by herself. Hold on one second. I gotta hold on.
Funny enough, the director calls the creature that she rides a cross between a baby chicken and a pterodactyl.
A baby chicken? Where'd you read that at?
The heavy metal wiki.
Oh, very cool. I'm looking at like just the wiki right now. The Wikipedias. So the original story was by Daniel Goldberg and Len Bloom, and it's based on Arzak by Mobius. Arzak is a comic book collection of 4 wordless short stories, which were originally published in the French sci-fi fantasy comic magazine Metal Herald.
I believe it's that one is one of the only ones that actually was pulled straight from the book. A lot of the other ones were 100% unique for the movie. And they just used the Lochnar to kind of combine them all together.
Yeah, and then one of the other things that would make being an empath really good is her being able to convey her meanings through her actions, because she doesn't talk.
She's a mute.
And so does it explain why she's a mute?
It
Because
does not.
I always assumed it was kind of like, the Legend of Zelda type of thing, where like the main character just never talks.
No, it's just know that she's a mute. It's specifically stated that she's a mute.
Maybe she's got like Asperger's or something. She only knows two things: her name and excellent swordsmanship. She kind of knows what riding a pterodon baby chicken thing is. But yeah, no, Tarna's super awesome.
I had another one, but I forgot. Also, we have been talking for over 2 hours now, I believe.
There's no way it's been 2 hours.
It is
Yeah, it is.
12:41.
Alrighty. Well, any non-topic related news?
I got the normal breakdown of Kickstarter / Game 4 news if you guys are interested.
Absolutely.
Sure. Always.
So there's not much in the Kickstarter front. I believe most of everything that I've been tracking has either been mentioned here before or I'm sure there's some out there that I don't know. But we've either mentioned it or it's not really interesting to me. Well, I guess there is one. It has a week left. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get out here. It's Barbaria, Warlords of Wrath and Rune.
Ooh.
By I think it's the name of the guy on Kickstarter is Trey Manor, but I believe they were the one that was doing the Death Dealer miniatures. And I think he also has the Mad Elf King miniature game. He has a Facebook page. That's where I found this one from. I just started following it today. Redbox Games. That's the name of the actual company, Redbox Games. That's the only new Kickstarter that I started following, and I just started following it today. But on the Game 4 front, there is Mini Wargaming and Wargames Atlantics, The Damned, which are basically Chaos Cultists / Imperial Guardsmen. It is at $166,000 already, way over its funding goal. It has 19 days left in it, so it's got a good amount of time. These are being produced by Wargames Atlantic, so they're going to be relatively cheap sprues. I believe it's $100 for like three boxes basically. So even for every box is like 24 miniatures generally with what Wargames Atlantic does. If they're doing like ogre sized miniatures, there's usually 9 of them in there. And
Okay.
they have the normal guardsmen, they have the ogres, they have a command squad, they have heavy weapon teams, and I believe today they just unlocked their outriders, or it might have been yesterday, the outriders. So that's like your the Imperial Guard have their the Rough Riders. Same thing, basically. Horse riding dudes with like lances that have like exploding tips on them.
Ooh.
And they have quite a bit of free stuff. Their next big unlock is at $170,000 to get the Damned Hounds, which look like reptile hounds. They're kind of cool. Kind of
Cool.
like the Chaos Warhounds that came out back in 7th edition 40K with their but they had Ogren drivers, which is a little different. And then there is, for those people that love Gloomhaven, there's a big campaign coming up for Gloomhaven on Game 4 or Game Found, my bad. and it has over 600 miniatures in it. I think it launches closer to the end of this month. I don't know if it has a preview page or anything yet. I just keep getting notifications in my email and on my Facebook about it. But I believe this will give you all the miniatures you would need to be able to play your Gloomhaven campaign, as well as the RPG, which I think is coming out right around the same time. I'm not a huge game Gloomhaven buddy or player, and then one of the big reasons was because it was a huge box that was like $150 that came with like almost no miniatures. I think the newest version does have like a dozen miniatures in it, but this will give you everything you need to run the, from what I understand. And then super old games getting its relaunch 35 years later, and it still has no elves, called Tassalante. Huge fan of this setting, and it is huge fan of this setting, and it is $161,000 already backed into it. So it's well over its funding goal. I have the original Tassalante RPG. It is very, very not D&D RPG. It has some weirder stuff in it. If you're like into the more weird fantastical stuff and high magic, Tassalante might be a world to check out. I believe it is the 5th edition of the game as well.
5th edition.
So
my heart's broken. Okay.
I think that is all of the things I'm currently tracking between Game Found and Kickstarters and those type of systems.
Okay. I'll make mine super fast. I know Avenger Satanis's Chalt web comic got fully funded. So that'll be super fun to see him and Jay Tanaka join forces once again.
Cool.
I'm wondering how much of the overfunding that he got, so that way he can fulfill his promise. Because a lot of the a couple episodes ago, I was talking about how he was going to help subsidize writers to make Chalt zines, and that was all indicative based on how much money he got from that particular Kickstarter. So I know that he was overfunded by a little bit. I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that. I personally, it's like my Chalt book is going to end up being written regardless of whether or not Venger decides to subsidize it, because it's a project that I believe in. So there's that. And then not a Kickstarter, my favorite custom mini STL provider, TitanCraftMinis.com, not a sponsor. They just updated their mini crafter to have number sliders for poses. They added their combat wheelchairs, which if we want to have a discussion about that, I'm more than willing to. I'm okay with them. And then they put out a poll for what should they include next. I voted for two-handed weapons. Currently, their hero creator, if you give them a two-handed weapon, they awkwardly kind of hold it in one hand, and you have to pose them so that they hold it in two hands. So it's a minor gripe for me, because again, if you choose a two-handed weapon, you can make them hold it in two hands. It's just doesn't work currently, probably as intended. But I voted for two-handed weapons and more hero options. But they're also taking polls right now for what are the two things that you look forward to most. And there's like a redo undo feature. There is more heroes,
that's
more
a really good one.
races, more
Races,
weapons, and then there's more like hero options. So I'm not exactly sure what that entails. More monster options, because they do have a create your own monster thingamabob kind of option, where they have like beholders, mimics, dragons, ogres, orcs, aboleths, and such. So there is a little bit more talk about what they're going to be doing for their next Kickstarter. So I'm really curious to see what their next asset packs are looking like that. And if you've never heard of Titancraft before, I definitely recommend them over Eldritch Foundry or what was that other one, Hero Forge?
Hero
Because the
Forge.
way that their pricing works is you don't buy the singular STL, you buy the asset pack. So if you buy the sci-fi pack, any character you make using the sci-fi assets, you buy the $35 asset pack, and then you get access to all of those things, and you can customize miniatures, download them, print them as many times as you want. You can make them, and I think they also have a pretty robust in-house printing system to have the physical miniature set to you if you want to go that route as well. So Titancraft Miniatures or TitancraftMinis.com. Let me make sure that that's the actual link. Titancraft.com. Titancraft.com is the one that you want to go to. That's the one that I like to use. That's the one that I will be using in the future. Other than that, you can always find my books at biggeekemporium.com. Eventually at Giant Slayer Games. He's going through the process of actually getting his company/LLC put up, and we will see where that goes.
Oh, I did see that he mentioned it. He's got a test site up right now.
Oh, yeah. And then there's currently a giveaway. So as of recording this, it's Friday night. Giant Slayers is doing a giveaway on my behalf where you get 4 bugbears if you win the drawing at Patio Cakes on Twitter, Paddy's Parlor Games. If I get 450 followers, Giant Slayer Games will be sending you a pack of 4 bugbears. And I decided to add into that 2 printed copies of my game Mutants, signed by me, sent to you to go with your 4 bugbears. That way you have 2/3 of the equation, depending on how you want to break it down. Maybe it's half of the equation because you're going to need another warband for your opponent and a mat to play it on. But I imagine people who listen to this are relatively imaginative. You'll figure it out. But if I get 450 followers here soon, you'll get yourself 2 copies of Mutants as well as 4 bugbears to play it with.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Alrighty.
Anything new on the Brewski front?
Absolutely not.
I saw your post today for your Slaneshi train on your story. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's done. I'm gonna be
really good put together. Yeah.
I'm gonna be shipping that off to Nikki. She's one of my Instagram followers when I hit 500, and I just did a drawing and set that up for her. I got a bunch of requests on how to make that, so I think I'll probably, I don't know, the next one I'd probably do that I'd be interested in would be Zinch, so maybe I'll make one for them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I'll actually video this one so you can, because it's really simple materials, really easy to do. It's really not super complicated, and it looks great as a centerpiece or a terrain piece, and you can do a lot with it. So.
And you hit 800 followers on Instagram right after you hit 500, huh?
I
pretty fast.
I legit have gone up about 170 followers in 36 hours.
Yeah, I saw that your post about that. I actually went up like 15 today. So yeah, there's something out there that's drawn followers into us somewhere. I don't know where.
Go figure. But yeah. So that's about all. I'm glad to have people along, and I'm interacting a lot more with other people as well. I'm just chiming in on just about everything. So maybe that's, it seems kind of,
I think it does help for sure.
It seems kind of dumb, but if you have to be social on social media if you want to get anywhere.
Yeah, you pulled ahead of me on the Twitters.
I'm
so proud
Twitter
of you,
too?
you social butterfly.
What?
Wow.
Preposterous.
Beating the patio cakes in Twitter now.
For freaking preposterous.
So it's one of those things. I think I talked about it a little bit with
you only need 52
Wolfgar.
followers to get to your 450 though, Pat.
Yeah. But I was talking about it on Raven Wolfgar. It's funny, we talk about the benefits of having all these followers, and I used to not think about it for a really long time until I started thinking about content creation and why it's important for people who have the desire to just get out there and give it a go. And like I said, because without it, who knows? I might not have had the friendship that I have right here.
This is
So,
true.
you know, I don't put life altering stock into it, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with being a good guy or a good girl who goes out there and just tries to make people's days better, because there's a lot of people out there on the social medias that make it worse. So,
Arguably, yeah.
if you want to go out there and you want to be a social butterfly, do it, and hopefully you just make someone's life better, because I know mine's been enhanced because of the people who took the leap.
Absolutely.
And hopefully I do the same.
Yeah,
All right.
4-11 for Brewski.
Well, that'll do it for me.
Yeah, that's it. All right, people. So it's been another episode. We're very glad that you were able to stop in and listen to us. Obviously, check out our socials if you want to see what we're up to individually. But otherwise, we'll have some links in description for various promotions here. Let's get Paddy to 450 so he can participate in that giveaway. Mutants is definitely a fun skirmishy game. Really, really easy to get into. Really great to play. So I think you'll really enjoy that one if you like various other skirmish games. But you want a really, really easy one to dive into. That's perfect for it. So
yeah.
As always, I'm Brewski.
I'm Paddy.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.